Good morning, everyone. This is Sarah Haas with Outdoor Retailer. And to kick off our designer series this morning, we've got Cotton Incorporated, which I'm really excited about. A few housekeeping slides before we get started. If you have any trouble with your audio or the broadcast, a lot of times if you log out of the system and log back on, that'll totally clear everything up. Another thing you can do is hit the question mark in the corner and then test your system to see what the issues are. Another thing that we highly recommend is to ask questions. Cotton typically gets a lot of questions, and so we love hearing those. You'll see the box right underneath the video, and you can go ahead and ask your questions there. Just know that the questions are private and go directly to the speaker in the back end. Another note too is that this is being recorded, and it's also going to be available on demand at outdoorretailer.com about 15 minutes after the webcast. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jennifer with Cotton.
Hello and welcome to Cotton Incorporated Spring Summer 2022 Active Trend Overview. I'm Jennifer Lakowiak, Director of Supply Chain Marketing for Cotton Incorporated, and I will be moderating our forum today. Cotton Incorporated's mission is to increase the demand for and profitability of cotton through research and promotion. I encourage each of you to visit our CottonWorks site, sign up for a free account, and there you will find a wealth of information, innovation, workshops, and webinars. Today, we will feature one trend of a much larger three-trend forecast. My colleagues Marcy Gang, Executive Account Manager for Cotton Incorporated, and Jenna Cacavo, Cotton Incorporated Senior Trend Forecaster, will be discussing our CottonWorks website, upcoming trends, Cotton Incorporated's technology, and Fabercast fabrics. So with that, I will turn the presentation over to Marcy Gang.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is staying healthy and safe in these trying times, but we're very happy to be with you all today and sharing what's new with Cotton Incorporated. So what I'm going to be talking about today, we're obviously going to be sharing our active 2022 trend presentation, but there's some other resources that you all could take advantage of through our CottonWorks platform that you may not have been aware of before. So we'll talk about some of our new fabric and digital developments, as well as our performance technologies for cotton. So Cotton Incorporated, we are a nonprofit organization, and we have a research and development team here in our headquarters in Cary, North Carolina. And our product development team comes up with 2 collections of knit and woven fabrics every year that we then show to the industry as inspirational fabrics. We call these collections of fabrics our Fabercast Collection. And you can, we actually have a physical library here in North Carolina, but obviously with things going on the way they are right now, we actually have digitized our fabric library. We have about 8,000 fabrics in our physical library. We are in the process of transitioning all of those digitally, so you can now search for those fabrics through the CottonWorks platform. This is an example you can see here on the page of what that page looks like. If you are looking for a specific cotton fabric, you can search by fabric type. If you're looking for a certain performance technology, if you're looking for a knit or woven fabric, you can search for that specific fabric. And if you would like to request swatches of any of these fabrics, your account executive can send those fabrics to you. When we send you the fabric, we will send a small swatch, a 3x4 inch swatch of the fabric, along with all the technical information of how that fabric was produced. So we provide things like, the fabric weight, what type of yarns were used, how it was actually constructed. We actually send the pattern so that your mill can actually replicate those fabrics. We make it very simple for you to replicate these fabrics so that hopefully, you maintain the high cotton percentage. Our entire goal is for you to use more cotton in your products. So all of the fabrics that we develop are at least 60% cotton. And we're happy to help you if you have a synthetic product that you're interested in making the switch over to more natural fiber. We would be happy to help you with that. But we can send you the fabric swatches in the mail. And so really all you have to do is contact your executive account manager. If you're unsure who your account manager is, you can reach out to us. We kind of divide it by parts of the country, so we can connect you with the appropriate account executive for where you're located. Something new that Cotton Incorporated has just recently launched about 2 weeks ago. This is a very innovative new development. It's our digital development platform. What this is we have collaborated with 2 3D software companies, Clo and Browseware, to make the transition very easily from our fabric library into this digital design platform, where you can actually see these cotton fabrics, how they move and drape on a body. So you can download, if you have Clo or Browseware systems, you can just download that directly into those 3D software systems and actually see how the fabric will move and, as the person's moving and functioning. So it gives you a really great idea of how that fabric will drape on the body. Some new technologies that I just wanted to touch upon that you can do with cotton. We have several technologies, things like our Storm Cotton technology, which is cotton-rich fabric that provides water repellency. We have our Tough Cotton technology for enhanced durability. We have 2 moisture management technologies, Transdrive and Wicking Windows. We have our Pure Press technology, which is pretty new. That is a wrinkle resist finish for cotton that is formaldehyde free. And then we have our Natural Stretch technology, which provides mechanical stretch in 100% cotton, so no elastane fibers. I'm going to be touching a little bit more on these technologies at the end of Jenna's presentation. And just very briefly, just wanted to talk a little bit about the trend forecasting. So you can access a lot of trend information that Cotton Incorporated offers through the CottonWorks platform. So this is what Jenna is going to be providing as a very in-depth view at our active presentation for 2022, but we also have other presentations as well. We have a general color and surface presentation, which includes just general men's and women's colors and trends. And then we also have a denim-specific presentation that we offer as well. There's other resources on the site that you can zoom in to see the fabrics very close up. You can, we have a thing called City Views, where we go to different cities and photograph, interesting things that are happening around the world. So really great resources that you can take advantage of through the CottonWorks site. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jenna Cacavo, who's going to be doing the trend presentation for Active 2022.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Cacavo, as you've heard 3 times already, and I am beaming in live from Brooklyn, New York. It's nice to not see you all, but feel you digitally across the screen. So if you came to our last webinar, I went through with you guys 1 trend for the season in a really in-depth way. We do 3 for each season. So today I'm just gonna basically go through the second one. If you didn't come to that webinar, just to give you a little overview of kind of what we do and how we do it. So I work on a team with 3 other trend forecasters and our director, and we travel the world, or used to at one point. And we kind of basically just absorb everything that's going on in the world, even here, obviously, domestically. Everything plays a role into fashion and decisions and kind of what people will be looking for down the line in the future. And we do our best to come up with these trends that will hold true in the next 2 years or so, that will really allow you as creatives to understand what the world will look like, what consumers will be expecting, and kind of the new aesthetics that will be happening at that time. Our main goal, though, as both Jennifer and Marcy had mentioned, is to really just keep cotton front of mind. So while we talk about these trends, we're always going to go back into fabric and show you how cotton can play a role or kind of mimic the same type of aesthetic that we are forecasting. So I'm going to go through one slide with you today. One trend. And that one trend is called technical craft. And this is very fitting for the topic of this webinar as a whole, and also just for the times, really. So basically, technical craft is very much inspired by the creative community that has kind of grown and boomed online, especially lately, especially during the whole COVID lockdown time that we were living in, and some people still are. When we first forecasted this trend, when it was just kind of like an ideation for us, this was back in maybe January, February, and this was before, the COVID effect. And it was kind of a way more conceptual trend, to be quite honest with you. And through the lockdowns, it really accelerated so much and gave us a lot more to look at and to work with, and to help build out this presentation, quite honestly. So we'll talk about really how people are relying mostly on digital realms and like digital tools to create things, and how that creates a really new aesthetic. And the whole concept of this trend, because we are in the end going to create physical products, is kind of how this is changing the consumer's mindset, what they're comfortable seeing, the types of things that they will be looking for, and how this is reflective of kind of like a digital/physical realm. So this first example, we really talk about these creative consumer worlds. So programs that maybe were at one time only available to certain industries, or even just certain people in industries, are becoming available just to the public. So a great example of that are the images on the right-hand side of the screen, and they're from a computer program called Depth Kit, which allows you to capture in real time like 3D imagery, and then allows you as just a regular person to use this 3D imagery in your own visual pipeline. And the image that you see on the bottom right-hand side of the screen is someone giving a TED Talk using this exact technology. On the bottom left-hand side, we talk about Sony Dreams. And in Sony Dreams, this is a program that you need not to have any coding experience, but you can basically create your own video game. And this is almost open source in a way, where these games are published online, and then other people could download your game and kind of use it as a template and add things to it, make it their own. The really cool thing about this for me personally is that Sony actually gives you, the creator, basically ownership of the IP of your game. So if you ever wanted to sell it, you could make money off of it yourself, and Sony wouldn't. Even if you create like a character or an avatar or a graphic, you have the rights to this artwork, and you can put it on a t-shirt or use it anywhere. So interesting that brands are kind of allowing creative consumers to kind of become the creator, and even like an entrepreneurial kind of spirit as well. So here we talk about digital artists, and it's one of the cooler slides to me. It was just really fun doing this type of research and discovering all these people. On the left-hand side, we talk about an artist from Japan, and he's 81 or 82 years old now, and he's been doing work like this only for the past 18 years. And he basically creates these beautiful nature-inspired, almost, looking like oil paintings to a certain degree, but he uses Excel to create these beautiful works of art. And he literally doesn't hack into the system and, create any type of special effects. He uses just exactly the tools that are there available to everyone in Excel to create these digital masterpieces. There's a great story about him on the littlebigstory.com. So definitely watch that if you are kind of piqued your interest at all. On the right-hand side, Diana Smith, she does something, this small collection is called CSS Portraits. And this is really cool as well. So when you buy this work of art, you don't actually get a physical piece of art. She pretty much just emails you a code and like a coding system, and you put it into your browser, and then the work of art appears there. What's cool about it is that, and definitely speaks to this trend, is that depending on the browser that you use, the code is kind of determined differently, or, you know, comes out looking different. So you never really know, no matter what kind of web browser you put it into, you might have a different aesthetic for the end work of art. So moving into more of like fashion effects and talking about digital clothing. So you've probably all heard of by now the Carling's collection and Virtue. They won awards. It was groundbreaking, known as the most environmentally friendly clothing collection on the planet in history. And that is simply because there were no real physical clothes being made. So the idea here is that you actually pay real money. The money is real that you exchange, but the clothing that you receive is digital. Instead of only being able to use this clothing on avatars, which is how most brands sell their digital clothing now, if you didn't know, you can actually upload this into an image of yourself or even a video of yourself, and the clothing will actually wrap around you, and it will look like in the video or the image that you post online, like you were physically wearing a real garment. Puma and the Fabercant. The Fabercant is an agency, a company that we've been talking about in our trend forecast for like 3 or 4 seasons now. They're pretty amazing, and it's all about digital creation. Puma partnered up with them and did their most recent campaign, which was also, I believe, applauded as being like the most green campaign in history, because everything was created online. There were no real models, there were no real clothing. Even the actual location was not real. Everything was virtual. Hanifa on the top right-hand side is kind of a lesser-known designer, but she became really popular during the COVID lockdowns because she did have online 3D presented fashion show on her Instagram Live where tens of thousands of people attended, and she used the 3D technology to kind of send her clothing down the runway. And she, in interviews, she actually, like I said, kind of became more popular through this use of technology than she would have previous to lockdown, and obviously use of this technology as well. So here in this slide, we really are just trying to illustrate this idea of digital meeting the real world. So again, this idea that we're all spending a lot of time online, whether we want to or not, and we're getting kind of used to those aesthetics. Things that used to look kind of weird and maybe even like offsetting or, you know, kind of like wonky to us, they're becoming like more and more normal and acceptable. And this whole slide is showing actual physical product and creation that does not appear as though it has been created or will function in the real world, in the physical world. This all, for the most part, started initially with furniture design. They kind of adopted this whole digital realm sooner, I believe, than any other industry, it seems, as far as just actually creating product that solely existed online. They didn't really plan on selling this furniture. 2 really good examples of this are the 2 images that are kind of like pink in color, the chair on the top right-hand side, and then that, I mean, the caption says super toys. I don't know how to describe that other pink image. But both of those were only exclusively designed to be held online and not ever be put into physical production. But because people were spending so much time online and started getting drawn to these types of aesthetics, these companies got so much feedback and demands for these 2 objects that they actually did end up creating it for physical purchase. But again, like they don't look like they would be able to exist or would really exist or function in our physical world. And that's what this whole slide is about. Obviously, footwear, it's kind of easy to kind of emulate that digital kind of realm or aesthetic through color, through texture, 3D printing, obviously. But nonetheless, this is all how kind of physical and digital, it's getting blurred. The lines are becoming blurred. And speaking of that, this is where we talk about literally how those two worlds are coming together. How when we're in a physical space, we're still kind of interacting in like a digital realm, and vice versa, or ways, I guess, that now digital agencies are trying to bring more physical kind of interaction into their products. So a really good example of this is that same brand that I spoke about in 2 slides previous with Carlings and Virtue. So this was the second collaboration that they did after the digital only release. And this is really cool. So it is a real t-shirt. You do use real money, but you do get a real t-shirt. And then you purchase this t-shirt, you put it on, obviously, and then you use the Instagram app and a special filter that was created just by them. And what's so cool about this, I don't know how the technology works. I can't really tell you. But when you aim your camera with this filter open at a person or yourself wearing the t-shirt, there is like a little hidden code, and this will allow you to change like the slogan or the pattern or even the color of the t-shirt via this app. And every day they actually change the filter to add new information, new colorways, new stories. So even though you only bought one t-shirt, technically you could wear that every day. And in your digital world, it would look like you had a different t-shirt on. So that's pretty cool. On the bottom right-hand side, Space Popular. This is a really interesting concept because it's something that was presented actually at the Venice Biennial in 2019, and everyone started talking about it after the lockdown. So it was kind of like an art concept. There were futurists that were trying to predict, you know, how we would communicate and kind of like even hang out with each other in the future. And obviously the lockdowns really sped everything up. So this is cool. And the whole concept is the idea that, you know, you and I, or whoever you are on the other side of this, or you and somebody else might be on like almost like a web conferencing call, or, you know, to be personal, like a FaceTime. But you would use a headset technology. And what this Space Popular technology does is it's able to kind of blend together like my background and the furniture in my apartment or whatever space I'm in with that of the other person that I'm collaborating with. So it almost like melds together virtually our physical spaces, and it's supposed to make us feel like we're more together. But again, like all of the imagery is like a little bit wonky and kind of like off kilter because this technology is so new. And it's just a big part of this trend, just that kind of aesthetic. And that kind of leads us into this example of this one aesthetic that I personally think is a little bit more, you know, friendly, more so for like the youth consumer. But anyway, we call it clunky digital. And I remember life before the internet, not too well, to be honest. I'm not that old. But I do remember it. And I do remember early days of the internet and what that looked like, and how it was kind of just people, for lack of a better term, just messing around online and like creating their own web pages and blogs, and everything was kind of like a little like, you know, nothing was to scale perfectly, and it had kind of like this clunky digital feel to it. And we're kind of seeing a resurgence of that. It just looks a little different because the technology has now advanced. But again, it's like about that idea, like, you know, things that don't seemingly kind of go together, or it looks like a little bit of like a glitch or like a misprint, and very much inspired by all of those things that I just showed you in the previous 5, 6, 7 slides. So good graphic kind of inspiration here, and just overall, you know, trying to show you how these things can influence actual products. So we move into color. And with color, it's important to kind of note that we're not necessarily dictating to you these exact Pantone colors. Not that we don't feel strongly about them. That's just not really, I mean, there's like 300 of you in here all dealing with different types of clients, and how would we know how to speak to you on that. So the idea that what we're always trying to convey is more so an idea in color than an actual dictation of it. And that's kind of important to remember. So with this whole concept here, this idea in color, you can see it is very gradient in nature. And that is done on purpose. And that is the main takeaway of this specific color story. The reason for its gradient nature and why that's important is because we are trying to amplify like surface effects and just overall shape and texture and create things, again, in the physical world that look as though they exist or maybe could possibly just solely exist in the digital realm. And gradient color is an excellent way of doing that. And you can see that through just the imagery that is provided. There are a couple of key takeaways here or things to note about this color story. I would say the center color, that lime green, is important because we've seen lime green for 4 seasons now, very heavily used. And here it's just turning into something that's a little bit more interesting and peculiar. It's more of like a bright pear shade than it is like an electric or fluorescent green. The other thing to note is that there is no presence of a true black in this palette. The darkest colors that you see towards the ends, like bookending the palette, are just the darkest or more saturated versions of their colorful or brighter counterparts. So moving into fabric, the first concept is inspired by 3D printed technology and kind of like the textures and dimensions that are created through that. And here we have 4 cotton-rich fabrics that kind of emulate or, show that in some way. On the top left-hand side, this is a pocket weave on a rather lightweight base, almost like a summer quilt. It is really cool in person. Unfortunately, we're not in person, but it has almost like a windbreaker-like hands. It's a cotton nylon blend, almost like papery. And it does have a little bit of like a rib-like texture behind even those little pockets of kind of this textured circle. On the bottom left-hand side, this is a knit fabric. It has a lot of stretch to it. And it has spandex in it, and also all of this puckering that creates almost like a knit-like seersucker interpretation. And speaking of such a construction, on the top right-hand side, this is a woven example. And this is kind of like a modified waffle construction, but like if you really look at it, or if you had this fabric in your hands, you would notice that it's almost as though it's 2 seersucker constructions, like running, crossing over each other. So one running vertically and one running horizontally, and it creates a really awesome effect. Also, the tonal combination of the yarns, like the 3 shades of gray, actually amplifies kind of the dimension of this fabric as well. In this slide, we call it crafted by machine. And on the top, we're really focusing more so on the actual construction, right? The structure of the fabric. So on the top left-hand side, this is a knit that has kind of, if you look closely, a glitched or like almost like a coating type of influence to it on the top left. It's a cotton wool blend in a menswear short. In the center, the top center, I love this fabric. If you look closely, again, on the back side, you'll see it kind of has like the texture of a standard, maybe like knit piqué. That's as close as I could describe it for you. And then on the top of that fabric, there is a knitted design. It knits onto the face, and it's using like almost like a metallic yarn, and it is creating like a mesh overlay appearance. On the right-hand side of that, this is a woven fabric, an open construction, so very breathable, and then it's been printed in a grid-like pattern on top of the grid-like construction, so it's giving kind of like a 3D effect. And sitting below that, this is all like after, so not necessarily fabric construction, but more so detailed applique, etc. And I like to think about this specific group as like if a robot had a hobby, like what would it do and what would it look like? Specifically that one in the center. So a lot of embroidery and top stitching that has kind of like an intricate look to it, but also at the same time something, especially that center one, that is a bit like off and imperfect. And again, that is a big part of the trend. So here we have Digichrome, and this really does speak to that concept about trying to create surfaces, even using color finishes specifically that mimic the things that we see online. So metallics will always be, relevant in activewear. Those doesn't seem like they'll ever go away. But this is nice because it's just kind of like a new way to interpret it, and they're kind of matted. Right? They don't have like a mirrored or a glossy shine. They look as though they've been tarnished or aged or washed down, kind of subtle. And that's nice. On the bottom left-hand side, this is not through a finish, it's through construction. So it's a cotton nylon blend and it's cross-dyed. So the nylon takes the dye like in a deeper color and the cotton not so much. And that's how that kind of glowing appearance is created. So in this one, all about digital classics and just kind of like reinterpreting, right? Standard things like plaids and checks. On the top left-hand side, this is actually done in fabric form. I wouldn't suggest it for activewear because it does have a lot of almost like loose yarns because there is a lot of floating yarns that are happening there and kind of skipped areas. But nonetheless, we really take it for inspiration for prints. So almost like digitizing, pixelating, any type of classic pattern. A great example of that is the sample on the bottom right-hand side, which actually brings in like the numbers. And again, like this reference of coding over a plaid that has been kind of like pulled apart or dissected. Foam-like, so again, mimicking, I'm just gonna keep saying it, mimicking the types of textures that you think might be online because you can't feel those things, or just the overall aesthetic, right? Very unrealistic in a certain way. So foam-like fabrics being important, whether they be in spacer knits, like on the top right-hand side. And this one is, believe it or not, rather thin and lightweight. Sitting below that, that is a cotton incorporated fabric development, and it's been laser etched. It's a velvet that's been laser etched in that wave, really speaking to this trend. It creates like an undulating texture, and this has also been treated with the storm technology that Marcy had touched upon before, and she'll get into after this section. This next slide we call sheer skins, and this is literally inspired by avatars and like the skins. Nothing too far-fetched here. So this is great, especially for women's wear, for shells, and it's all about kind of like these jacquard knits. On the right-hand side, the kind of lavender, grade lavender one, and the one that sits below it, both of those are knits that have sheer spaces, so great for ventilation, for breathability, and they're tend to be created in kind of close to skin, fitting garments. In the center, that's a cotton incorporated fabric development, and this has actually been embossed. So it is not, there are no sheer areas, which is a nice option to have. Sometimes you don't want sheer fabric. We move into bionic, and really just speaking to the popularity, the rising popularity of the one pieces, again, specifically for women's wear, or even just the matching set or kit, as now they call it, and how all of this tonal combinations of yarns and colors. So again, like referencing right back to what I was talking about in color application and the color palette, this gradient color really is important when trying to achieve certain effects, specifically this kind of like body mapping aesthetic. And on the left-hand side, this is actually a sweater knit, to be honest with you. It's pleated, and it is done on a seamless knitting machine, and it is taking inspiration from like the body mapping type of aesthetic. It's a cotton incorporated development. So print down, these are kind of like imperfect colorations on fabric, whether it be through dyeing, through finishing, or just through actual yarn choice. So this was inspired by almost like photocopying, or like, the digitization of imagery, and how, pixels are always present the closer that you zoom in. On the left-hand side, this is all appealing to like good updates for terry and fleeces. And this is really just using contrasting colored yarns in the loop and in the tie to create almost this, again, uneven color, almost like a little static or pixelation on the face of the fabric itself. On the right-hand side, on the top right-hand side, this is a Cotton Incorporated fabric development. It's a woven and it's been blotch printed. It's a dobby woven, so there's raised areas. And then when it's blotch printed, it only picks up on those raised areas. It's a bit imperfect. And again, you can see kind of like the different levels of color in the blotch printed area. One of my favorite samples, one of the last ones that I purchased overseas, is the black image that you see on the bottom right-hand side. And this was a sweatshirt. And then they took a piece of mesh that they printed, kind of like an abstract pattern on. And then they used waterproof taping and attached it to the front of the sweatshirt. But they didn't actually adhere the mesh to the sweatshirt itself. So they allowed it to kind of move and separate away from the base fabric. And it creates like a really kind of ghostly look. Hopefully that explanation is able to visualize in your minds. Silk-like, okay, so moving into more woven constructions and taking advantage, again, of kinds of like these digital kind of slick type of surfaces. On the top right-hand side is a Cotton Incorporated fabric development. It's a cotton nylon blend, and most of the nylon is held on one side of this fabric, and that is where all the luster comes from. On the bottom left-hand side, this is actually 100% cotton, and it's just using mercerized cotton on the face that gives it like a satin like quality and feel. And lastly, we have warped, and this kind of marries together both like a silhouette and a styling concept and also fabric. So when it comes to silhouette and styling, like on the left-hand side, it's all about giving the user the ability to kind of like change or like reinterpret the silhouette that's given to them through like toggles and interesting closures, cords, bungees, etc., and allowing them to kind of like torque the garment, really. And then on the right-hand side, it's kind of showing you how that can also be achieved in fabric. The two Cotton Incorporated fabric developments that you see on the bottom, the green and the very bright pink, are blister knits. On the top left-hand side, actually, that's also a blister knit, but more in a grid-like pattern. And on the top right-hand side, this is another velvet that's been laser etched and treated with the storm technology. You can see how the water just beads right up on it. And this is kind of like a trans-seasonal concept, I would say. It would be just as important in fall, winter as it is in spring, summer. So we kind of chose to showcase fabrics that would work for both. So that is the whole second trend of the season in its entirety. Marcy will come back on and kind of wrap up with showing you some specifics on technology, and then we'll have questions and answers. So if you have anything for me, feel free to type it in below. But other than that, thanks for your attention, and I'll hand it on to Marcy.
Okay, thank you, Jenna. Okay, so I hope everybody enjoyed that, and hopefully it was inspirational for you all. Hopefully we can inspire you further by showing you some of our technologies that can be used on cotton. And this is just a small sampling of some of the different things that we offer at Cotton Incorporated. Just a reminder, as a nonprofit organization, we do not charge for any of our fabrics, our technologies, our knowledge. Our end game is only for you all to hopefully use more cotton in your products. And so we offer these technologies as a way for companies to hopefully introduce more cotton in their garments. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the technologies that probably are most popular technologies, that, especially in the outdoor space, that most companies are interested in. And hopefully it'll continue some further conversations within your own companies. So storm cotton, by far, most companies in the outdoor market are very interested in using this technology. This is a DWR that's designed for cotton, 100% cotton or cotton-rich fabrics. It can be used on knits, wovens, sweaters. It can be used on a variety of different fabric. Really, it's not the fabric that's limiting. It's more if the structure of the fabric is too open, that would be a limiting factor. So like for sweater, make sure that there's no, obviously, big holes or anything like that in the sweater. But for regular construction, this is a very good, durable, water repellent finish that is extremely durable. So most DWRs, would wash off 5-10 washes. This is 80% there after 30 washes. That's our minimum requirement. So I think that really helps with the longevity of the garments. We want to keep garments in use, especially, within just being conscious of the environment. We want to keep garments in use as long as possible, keep them out of landfills. So I think this is a great way to do that, because then you're also creating garments that can be used on a variety of different occasions. It could be used as, outdoor wear or, for athletic purposes. So we also have a couple of different ways that you can apply this finish. It's available in C6 and non-fluorine formulas. So if your company is trying to steer away from C6 and definitely C8 chemistry, the non-fluorine formula is definitely a great option. Transdrive Technology. So this technology really is something that helped put cotton on the map, because as far as moisture management. Several years ago, when I first started with the company 15 years ago, you could never find any cotton for activewear garments. Now that's changing. This technology is called Transdrive. This is a moisture wicking / quick drying fabric that can be used on knits and wovens. It helps cotton fabrics to dry much more quickly, because that's really the issue. Cotton naturally wicks. It's not that it doesn't wick, it's that it retains moisture too long. So this finish is a yarn treatment that's applied at the yarn stage, and so it's durable for the life of the garment, assuming that people take care of it. They don't dry it with fabric softener or anything like that. It will stay for the life of the garment. Again, available in C6 and non-fluorine formulas. Natural Stretch is a technology that has been around for a little bit, but it has kind of I guess companies are looking at it again, and people are a lot more interested in it. They think it's something brand new, but it actually has been around for probably about 20 years. This is a mechanical stretch technology that is designed for 100% cotton woven fabrics. It gives cotton stretch without the use of any elastane. I would say it's more of a comfort stretch. It's not like crazy amount of stretch, but it gives you a nice, flexible comfort stretch for denim, for khakis, for woven shirting. The benefit to doing that is that spandex, when you dry it, if the temperature gets too hot, it basically will re-denier the spandex, and so it loses its stretch over time. The 100% cotton natural stretch will not do that, because there is no elastane. So again, when we're talking about more sustainable garments, there is no synthetic in here. So it's a completely biodegradable garment. 100% cotton is completely biodegradable. So that's another benefit to using all cotton. Strength and durability. We have several technologies designed to improve the durability of 100% cotton fabrics. I alluded to it in the beginning of the presentation, tough cotton. And I would also add to that Pure Press. They're kind of sister technologies. Tough cotton is a fabric that will improve the durable press rating of fabric, along with improving the durability and abrasion resistance of cotton. So, and then Pure Press does very similar things to that, but it's in a non-formaldehyde option. That was something that the industry has been saying for a long time. They want formaldehyde-free technology for durable press, and so that's what this technology does. We've also collaborated with Cordura and Dyneema to produce cotton blended fabrics that drastically increase the abrasion resistance of cotton fabrics. So you only need a little bit of Cordura or the Dyneema yarn in there, and it really increases the durability. And then another thing that I just wanted to point out, we have combined technologies together. So now we have things like our tough cotton and our storm cotton technologies together in one fabric, and then also our tough cotton and Transdrive So you get the durability and the moisture management together in one fabric. Again, these are just a sampling of some of the technologies that we have. If you visit our trade-facing website, cottonworks.com, you can click on, there's a couple different tabs, our performance technologies and product technologies, and see some of the other things that Cotton Incorporated offers. One of the questions that we had was about antimicrobial technologies. There are several that we have evaluated for cotton. We've tested all of them because there's a lot of them out there. I would say not all of them do what they say they will do. So we have pretty strict standards as far as what we will actually promote to the industry, because we want to make sure it works for cotton, that we're promoting things that actually work. So if you visit the CottonWorks website, you will see a list of the different technologies, antimicrobial technologies that we have tested, and we have shown that it does work on cotton. But that's it for our presentation. I think now what we're going to do is go through and answer some questions.
Thank you, Marcy. Yeah, so we've been answering some questions as you guys have been typing them in, which has been great. And I'm looking to see if any new ones are coming through. I know one of the questions that we had answered earlier was regarding the digitized fabrics that we're offering now on our Cottonworks site, and they are compatible with the Clo and Browseware systems. Also, they download right to your computer. So if you sign up on Cottonworks, you have access to our digitized fabric library, and it will download right to the system that you are using, whether it's Clo or Browseware. Marcy did answer the antimicrobial question. I'm trying to think what else, any other new questions are coming through. Do we have any customers that are currently in the market using fabrics containing Dyneema? Marcy, would you like to answer that?
I know that we have collaborated with some mills that are offering it to their customers. So sometimes it's hard for us to know, since we're not actually selling the fabrics, it's hard for us to know exactly where these fabrics are ending up. But I know that we have worked with some denim mills here in the US and overseas. And so they are selling these fabrics, but we've kind of lose track after a certain point just to say exactly who's using this technology. But I believe that it is out there. I'm not sure if I can think of one that's using the Cordura, but I'm not sure if I want to say it in a public forum, but it is out there with a major US brand.
And Marcy, can you elaborate a little bit on what specifically is Dyneema? We have somebody asking that question as well.
Yes, so that is a branded, I believe it's a nylon yarn that we have collaborated with that company so to improve the abrasion resistance of cotton. So really, I think it's about 97 or 96% cotton, and then 4% of the Dyneema fiber. But you only need a small amount of that fiber, and it really improves the abrasion resistance. So it's great for workwear. It's great for skateboarding, different outdoor activities where the knees might bust out, or elbows, and so you get that abrasion resistance. So it's a brand of yarn that we are blending with cotton.
Terrific, thank you. Somebody has asked if storm cotton can be applied to cotton knits. Yes, it can be. Storm cotton can go on either knits or woven fabric.
And I would like to say, Jennifer, let me just interject here for a second.
Absolutely.
The fabric, you can apply it to knits, and actually the fabric weight is quite light that you can actually apply it to. I think we have maybe like a 3.5 to 4 ounce jersey that we have applied the storm cotton to. So you can actually get quite light fabrics and then get the, the water repellent. And it does not, the other thing about the storm cotton is it does not inhibit the breathability in any way of the cotton. So that's one of the benefits, obviously, of using cotton, is how breathable and comfortable it is. So we wanted to make sure any finish that we apply to it doesn't impede the breathability of cotton. And so that does not in any way, because it's not like a film or a coating or anything like that.
Great, thank you. Somebody else has asked, are some cottons more earth-friendly and sustainable than others? So cotton is cotton, and it is a natural cellulosic fiber, and it is earth-friendly, it is drought-tolerant. There are different types of staple cotton, long staple, short staple, there's different types, but being that it is a natural and sustainable fiber inherently at its core, all cottons are earth-friendly and sustainable. Marcy, do you want to weigh in a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I would just kind of build on what Jennifer just said. She's absolutely correct. I mean, we really consider cotton that has so many benefits to it. You know, as we had mentioned, it's completely biodegradable, compostable. It's biodegradable in land and in water. So, you know, all these things that you see about microfiber pollution and the fibers coming off of fleece and things like that, that all fibers shed, but cotton is biodegrades in marine environments. And we do have a research study that we can share if anybody's interested, and it's available on our CottonWorks website. You know, I think the farming practices do vary by farmer to farmer, because there's not one farmer that does everything exactly the same, and it varies by country. But we will say that the United States is a leader as far as cotton production. And what we're doing here in the United States, we are sharing with many other countries around the world, and trying to teach them best practices. So how to grow cotton more efficiently with less energy, less water, less chemicals, and we are being very successful at that. So we have drastically reduced our impact globally, but especially in the United States. So I think it's hard to say that there's one type of cotton that is more sustainable than another, because it varies so much farm to farm. You can't really say that, you know, that everything's equal, because it really isn't. But I hope that answers your question. But I will say too, you know, that I'm only talking about the production side. There's a whole other side when you're talking about cotton, the dyeing and finishing. There's different processes, different types of chemistries that mills can use, and all of that factors into it as well. But really, the largest consumer of water and energy is at the consumer stage and how we wash our clothes. So I think it's going to take the industry at large coming together and saying, you know, trying to encourage consumers to really think about being more mindful of how they're washing their clothes, how often, and also using fabrics that will biodegrade.
Thanks, Marcy. And on that same topic, missed the tough cotton version without formaldehyde. That is called the non-fluorine version, correct, Marcy?
For the non-formaldehyde version of tough cotton?
Yes.
That's our pure press technology.
Oh, that's pure press. Okay. I thought that was, I was thinking the non-fluorine.
Yeah,
gotcha. Okay. And let's see. Have we developed any tough cotton with surface wax water resistant treatments?
Any tough cotton? That I am not sure. So
okay, we can get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jenna, what do you think is the most exciting new trend fabric from this presentation?
Wow. From this specific trend that I went through, I would say my favorite fabric was the one that I described as being like a seersucker running in both directions. It kind of has like an origami look to it. It does have functionality, even though it was a 100% cotton, the way that it is created, it gives it like a natural stretch, almost how Marcy was describing, but it's really just through the construction. It had like a nice weight to it. And I just felt like it was a type of fabric that could be used in so many different end uses. And just like I just love fabrics that I could call cool. I use that word all the time. But yeah, like I remember meeting that fabric for the first time at PV, and I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. So that was my favorite one for the textural reasons, the end use implications, and also just the actual hands, which unfortunately you guys can't feel.
Thanks, Jenna. Okay, so we're starting to wind down on time here and trying to get to as many questions as possible. But if we do not answer your question in this live forum, we will follow up with an email answer to your question. And some of the questions may just require a little bit of a longer answer than we have available time right now. So I'm just looking through right now. I have a question here. Are we working with mills globally, and do we have representation in Taiwan and China? Yes, we do. We have global representatives and global manufacturers that do have the chemistry available for our technologies and that we work with regularly. You can certainly reach out to any of the account reps, and they can help provide supplier lists and based on the technology that you're looking to use. So yes, that is something that we do have. We can work anywhere. And I think that's about it. We can answer the rest of these offline. I want to thank everybody for their time today. This was it was a great forum, and always wonderful to connect in the virtual world and talk through trends and fabrics and the newness that is coming out of Cotton Incorporated. I do encourage everybody to go to cottonworks.com. If you're not signed up, sign up. It takes about 2 minutes. And there you will definitely have a wealth of information right at your fingertips, completely portable. You can take it anywhere with you. So thank you again.